Peace, peace, peace. This is a pop-up live. I'm sure people will come in and we'll watch the replay. But I was inspired. Recently did one of my meditation classes, and what I wanted to talk about is what I think is neglected a lot of times when we are in the occult community or in the quote-unquote conscious community. A lot of times, what we miss or what we don't touch on. Oh, I see y'all coming in. Shout out to y'all. All right. I didn't really start yet, so shout out to y'all that are coming in the building. What I want to talk about is, as this title states, I want to talk about the inner child and Christ consciousness. And the one thing that we really don't talk about when we're talking about consciousness, or we're talking about raising our vibration, or raising our frequency, or transforming into beings of light, or ultramagnetic, or high frequency magnetic beings, which is what magic is when your magnetism is at its peak, when you are able to speak and visualize and make things happen via your magic. We sometimes talk about it as if it is a mechanical thing, and if it's just read some books, study some lessons, get some crystals, get some incense, get some spirit baths, and bibbity boppity do. It's kind of like cooking, right? Spirit cooking, right? Which is the negative term, but it's kind of like cooking. We think if we put all these ingredients together, right, that we get from the store or the botanica or from our teachers, that we will just naturally inherit consciousness. But when we're talking about Christ consciousness, we're talking about enlightenment, which is inside enlightenment, or lighting up your inner self, or lighting up your inner darkness, or lighting up your subconscious. And our inner self is really our inner child. If you talk to anybody or any psychologist that's worth a penny, they will tell you that most of our behavior as adults starts with our inner child, or who we were as children. And over time, we inherit through conditioning, through our childhood conditioning, these habits and these behaviors that we put forth today into society, that we now lead with based on these childhood behaviors, or these behaviors that we inherited from our parents, from our school, from our environment as children. So the one thing we have to realize in seeking enlightenment and seeking Christ consciousness is dealing with our inner child, right? There's even a verse in the Bible where Jesus talks about being childish but not childlike, meaning having that purity of a child. And you remember when you were a little kid. When you were a little kid, what did you do? You played, you were carefree, right? You weren't worried about bills. You weren't worried about who's beefing on the internet. You weren't worried about pedophilia. You weren't worried about the coronavirus, right? You weren't worried about any of those things. All you wanted to do was have fun. You wanted to be joyous. You wanted to play, and you wanted to explore. So there was a purity about you at one point when you descended into your parents' body and became this avatar that we now know as Rob, or whatever your name is, and you become this avatar body. You came from the purity of the universe. You came from the unblemished nature of the chaotic universe into this world of order, where there's day and night, where there's Halley's Comet comes around every so often, where you have to use the bathroom at certain times, where you have to eat at certain times. So you come from a world of chaos into this world of order as you descend as a child. So you're pretty much what they call a tabula rasa, or a blank slate. That blank slate now gets written on through people telling you what to do, people giving you verbal commands, and you learning how to respond to those verbal commands, and people showing you things, right? A is for apple. So they're giving you the visuals along with the verbals. So A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat, so forth and so on. And this is how you condition yourself, through learning through gathering information from other people. But your Christ consciousness is not truly activated. And when we're talking about a Christ consciousness, again, we're talking about enlightenment, lighting up your inner self. So you are not at that point as a child able to do that on your own. You have to go through degrees, which is what is in Masonic orders. They have different degrees, right? And degrees we know is heat. So if we're talking about light, right? If we're talking about the sun, we're also talking about heat. We're talking about fire. So whenever you're talking about light or you being inspired by something, you're talking about raising up or rising in degrees. Same way Masonic orders have degrees, right? Same thing the Nation of Gods of Earth. They say study your degrees. Because when you're going through degrees, you are rising or raising Kundalini or serpentine energy, right? So as a child, you don't do that. You're not able to do that. You are essentially in a mystery world and under a mystery school system because you don't know what's going on. So your parents tell you what's going on. School tells you what's going on. The media tells you what's going on. Cartoons tell you what's going on. Your friends tell you, as you know, they say your little friends, they tell you what's going on, right? So you don't have this ability to choose for yourself. Now, once you grow up, or the church or whatever is telling you what's going on. So you're being programmed, right? Once you grow up and a spark hits, right? The spark could have been Trayvon Martin being shot. The spark could have been you seeing things in Christianity that didn't work for you. The spark could have been you going to the mosque and seeing things that didn't work for you. The spark could be, but thank you, Mr. Real Estate. Yes, movies, media, all sorts of entertainment are telling you what's going on as well. But then you come to this point where you're watching Rob Blackstone because a spark has gotten to you. Something has told you that the reality that you've been fed as a child is wrong. The reality that you've been told through your teenage and through your adolescence and through your infancy is not right. The people that gave you the world didn't give you the right things, right? Didn't feed you the right foods, mentally and sometimes physically as well, right? So you'll have to now reconstruct yourself, and you have to destroy and rebuild. So you have to destroy these things that you learn. George Washington discovered America, right? Black is bad, white is good. All these concepts and ideas that you've been taught, you have to now reprogram these things. But what is the source of you being programmed? It is your childhood. It is you as a kid. It is you as an infant. It is you as a teenager. It is you as a preteen. These things have conditioned you. These things have programmed you. So this governs your now behavior, whether you are a procrastinator, whether you're lazy, whether you're fearful, right? Some people's fear of rats and bugs starts from childhood, right? They don't even realize they're still operating on that same program. Some people are fearful of dogs, right? That's a program that usually was initiated through childhood. And what happens is through repetition of these fears, repetition of this ability. Yes, Mr. Real Estate, you're on it. You must be a child to enter the kingdom of God. Exactly. Through the repetition of these things over and over and over and over, conditioned you and created the person that you are. So in order to enable Christ consciousness, you have to go within. One of the things that you have to master, which I always tell people, is meditation. Meditation is a requirement for you to be on this occult path. Meditation is required for you to do any type of deep spirituality. You've heard all the master teachers, Bobby to Panic, to anybody that you could think of, C. Freeman, they always talk about meditation. Because you cannot buy your way into this knowledge of yourself. You cannot buy your way into the path. You cannot crystal yourself into higher consciousness. I'm sorry. No matter how much amethyst you buy, that's not gonna activate your psychic abilities. If anything, it's just gonna nudge you towards getting deeper into yourself, right? These citrine crystals are not just going to give you money. If anything, they're gonna nourish your creativity, so that you could go out to get money. You understand? So it all starts with your own inner light, your enlightenment. And this starts with your childhood. This starts with you healing that child. Going into meditation is essential because how often have you revisited your inner childhood? How often has you revisited that inner child, the one who had issues with their mom, the one who had issues with their dad, who were held back, who were controlled, right? Who suffered emotional or physical abuse during their childhood? How often have you gone back in your meditation? Because we know that time is an illusion. The time that we are in on this world that is based and predicated on laws and law and order is not the chaotic universe and not the infinite expansive universe that we truly derive from as beings that are not in this avatar body, our consciousness, our divine consciousness. So our inner child is the source of our highest being as adults. Our inner child, that inner curiosity, that inner wonder, that inner creativity, that inner no worry, that peace of mind is the true source of who you are. When you were at your purest, that's when you were the closest to source. When you were the baby, because you just came from the universe. You just were descended as a star seed on this planet. So when you're meditate, when you are able to control your breathing and take your breathing out of the sympathetic or out of the fight and flight mind or out of the conscious mind that we use on a day-to-day basis to work, to have sex, to eat, to watch TV, to scroll on the media, to not tap into that conscious mind and to go in controlling and relaxing your breathing and going into your subconscious or your parasympathetic, right? The sympathetic is your fight or flight. The para, which we know there's a word called paranormal, which deals with all things mysterious, right? And all things that are hidden or occult or visible to the, now you're in the parasympathetic, which deals with what they call rest and digest. And that rest and digest allows you to decalcify your pineal gland by your cerebrospinal fluid being controlled through meditation. So essentially, you're washing your brain when you're meditating through controlling your breath, putting yourself in flow state, which is basically a miracle state where you are not even thinking about the physical world, but you are conscious of the spiritual world. You are in sync with all things and you're in sync with everything. So you being in sync with all things, you being in sync with everything, and you having that curiosity and you're having that wonder is a product of you being in this rest and digest position, not in fight or flight, not in watching fight videos, not in engaging in who's better, Cardi B or, Nicki Minaj or whatever new thing, or Trump versus Biden or everything like that. Those things put you in fight or flight because you're constantly at war. You're constantly at odds between the higher and lower self instead of being at one. But when you're in this parasympathetic, when you control your breath and slow down your breathing to about 3 to 5 breaths per minute, which is what meditators do over time, you get to the point where you're only breathing 3 or 5 breaths per minute. You put yourself in that flow state. The outside world leaves and the inner world is now open and accessible to you. Once you are in this inner world, it's similar to you being in a movie theater. Just like when you walk into a movie theater, that is meditation. That is what meditation looks like. When you walk into a movie theater, you sit down, you're facing a screen, right? And that screen is displaying consciousness. That screen is displaying a story or a tale, right? Which is what we do in our heads when we have situations. We create stories, we create tales, right? This is how humans are able to even create stories in the first place. They're based on things that happen in real life. So when you go into the meditation, you're essentially putting yourself into that movie theater. The word theater is synonymous with the brain frequency theta, theta. So that theta frequency, which is a brain wave frequency that is hypnotic, it's a frequency that you should listen to before you go to bed, because, and also do your meditation, because that frequency is hypnotic. So you're basically harnessing whatever idea or thought that you have to that hypnotic frequency and essentially reprogramming yourself, or quote unquote tricking yourself or hypnotizing yourself into this new reality or these new characteristics that you want. And one of the things you do once you go into meditation is you visit your inner child. You visit your youth. You go into your past. Because through the mind, you could go past, present, or future, right? Time is just a concept, again, that we use in this 3D world to measure things and to measure distance, right? But time, there's no time in the universe. There's no time in dark energy. There's no time in dark matter. These things have always existed. So when you're going into your mind or your subconscious, you go past, present, and future. So when you go into that past, when you're going into that inner child, you want to hug that inner child. You want to heal that inner child from the abuse, the emotional abuse. You want to reprogram that vision or that quote unquote reality into the reality that you want it to be. You want to hug that inner child. You want to kiss that inner child on the face. You want to squeeze that inner child, all the love that you have as you are now, and go back into your childhood and make sure that child feels protected. Tell that child that the person that you become now, tell that child that everything's going to be okay. You're going to grow up to be okay. Comfort that child that didn't get that comfort when you were a youth, when you didn't get that comfort from your parents, or you didn't get that comfort for your friends, or you felt alone. Go back and revisit that, because once you do, and once you start uncorking this childhood trauma, once you start reworking this childhood trauma, once you start putting new visions in this childhood trauma, I think I told you guys this before. I had issues with women growing up. Now I've been on this path for quite some time, close to 20 years now. So this was a long time ago, but I had issues with women, big time. And I remember doing this meditation and learning meditation, and my teacher telling me about going into my childhood and going into my past. And going into the past, I remember that vision came up, and it was like, wow, you don't even think about the source of these things, but everything that plagues you, anything that is any fear or anything that plagues you currently, you don't realize really that it comes directly from that childhood. It comes directly from your childhood. And it's something that you've done repetitively. Peace to everyone coming into the chat. Peace to y'all. And it occurs repetitively from you dealing with this over and over. So now you have to go in and reprogram these emotions and reprogram this vision. So not only do you reprogram the vision, but you have to reprogram the emotions. So anyway, I had to go back into the past. There's this issue I had with this girl. I was in high school, and she kicked me down the steps, basically, right? It's not the great story, but it's a true story, right? She kicked me down the steps, right? And it was a girl that I liked. So I had to go back. When I go back into that situation, even now, thinking about it, my vision is me hugging that girl, right? Even though that didn't happen in real life, right? The real life, or the reality that I'm creating in order to heal from that, is me hugging her, right? So now when I interact with women, that trauma of me getting kicked down the steps is not associated with all women, or not associated with women that I deal with. Now the vision is, or the feeling, which is more important than the vision and more important than the words that I say, the feeling, the emotion is different. And that's why you want to go back into the childhood, not to erase the responsibility of what someone has done, not to take away the, how do you say, not to take away the instance or the infraction, right? Because it is a real thing. But you want to change the feeling around it to benefit you. As I said earlier on Dreamwash channel, you are the CEO of your own life. So you are responsible on how it all plays out, from past to present to future. So you are still responsible for your past. Just because the past isn't here, it does not mean it doesn't count. This is why we study history, even not to be able to quote fancy words and to do great YouTube videos about history and events and the dates and the people and woo-woo. That's really great, right? But the reason we study history is to learn what to do in the future. So the reason you need to go into your childhood is to affect your future. The reason you can't hold grudges about slavery even, right, is because you're supposed to learn from slavery so you don't get enslaved again. See, this is the trick that they play on us by putting these slave movies out, putting all this black man getting shot by the police. And always updating, right? They always got a new video. New George Floyd video came out last week. New Breonna Taylor video came out last week, because it's designed to keep you trapped in the trauma of the past. Now, instead of looking at these situations and seeing what you can learn from them to protect your own family, so your family's not caught up in a police triangle, or if something does happen to your family and they're caught up in a police situation, you know what to do with your own family. You're looking at it and just being associated with the trauma instead of figuring out how to heal and how to develop from these situations. And every trauma, even the coronavirus situation, right? How do you navigate through the coronavirus? How do you navigate through losing your job? How do you navigate through the things that are changing? Are you still stuck in 2019? Are you still stuck that things are going to change and transform the way you believe they are, right? Or are you going to use the experiences? Are you going back to see what they did in 1918? Because this is not the first time they had a flu influenza that has crippled the nation. This has happened before. So are you going on Google? And the thing is, nowadays, you don't even have to buy a whole bunch of books, yo. My time sound like an old man. But when I'm back in the day, I remember we had to go to the library for all this. We had to order books and wait for the books to come, right? And we had to decipher. But now you have the internet. So you have information within seconds that you can gather about anything that you want. But the inner child is the key to Christ consciousness. Because once you are healing these things that happen in your childhood, once you reprogram and reformat your childhood traumas, you start to move through the world with less fear, less hang up, and less baggage. Baggage is what keeps you from not rising, frequency from not rising, for you not being able to tap into your psychic abilities. Because the key to tapping into your psychic abilities is you have, or is the science of Ma'at, you having your heart as light as a feather, and you being able to be receptive to frequency, you being able to be receptive to vibration. That's what clairvoyance and clairaudience is all about. It's about receptivity to frequency. It's about being able to look at somebody and tap into their vibration, and be tapping into the vibration. What it does is it activates my inner theater, or my inner theta, where I'm able to hypnotically connect with them and see what they're seeing. That's what not clairaudience, being clairvoyant is all about. That's what being clairvoyant is all about. Even astral traveling is about going within and using some sort of meditation in order to leave the physical and travel on the spiritual plane or on the astral plane. So any way you look at it, meditation is one of the most important things that you can learn. But what I want to bring about this Sunday, especially that we just came out of the Lion's Gate and we've tapped into the sacral chakra and tapped into the heart chakra, hopefully, and we put these wishes out, we've put these manifestations out into the world. Let's not forget about that inner child. Let's not forget about that little boy. Let's not forget about that little girl. And go in and go within and give that little boy a hug. Give that little girl a hug. Tell that little girl everything will be okay. Tell that little boy everything will be okay. Really see what they were seeing, and if they need protection, go into that vision and protect that child. Reformat the reality, right? Create your own fake news in your head so that when you move through the world, you're not triggered. And that's the key. When you're triggered, you're weighed down. That heart is not light as a feather, and you do not have that receptivity that you need. You are not engaging that crown chakra, and you are not able to see balance, right? You're not able to see balance. All you can see is sides. This is bad. This is good. I'm not going to listen to anything Trump says because Trump says bad and everybody says he's bad and he's racist. Well, Trump has some truth. There's some truth that Trump says. There's some things Trump has done that is good. But if you are triggered by slavery, if you're triggered by your past, if you're triggered by even racism, you're triggered by racism, then you're not going to be able to see what the things that are good that he has done, and vice versa. If you look on the Democratic side, right, you can say what you want about Joe Biden, whatever, and think he's the savior. But if you're looking at things on side to side, you're not seeing how Joe Biden is a creep. You're not seeing the way he interacts with children and the way he touches women, right? So who really is the bad guy out of both of them? I'm not on Trump or Biden's side at all. I'm not on none of their side. I'm on the side of me and on the side of my ancestors. What I am saying is, if you are weighed down by these different things that your past has told you are important, that your childhood has told you to be worried about, that your childhood has told you to be scared of, that your childhood has told you not to engage in, and you don't heal this part of yourself while you are on this occult path, you are always going to be caught in the web of taking sides, in the web of this is bad, this is good, instead of realizing that there's bad in you too, quote unquote. There's good in you too, right? You are no angel. No matter how righteous you are, no matter how spiritual you are, you ain't no angel. Let's keep it real with ourselves. You're no angel. There's things that you watch that are ratchet. There's things that you watch that have no spiritual or nutritional value. There's things that you do that have no spiritual or nutritional value, right? So what we want to look at is, as we're doing this childhood work, we want to look at where we are now, this character that we have now, and where do some of these things come from. If you're triggered, right? If you find yourself triggered about the same thing over and over, you want to meditate. This is why meditation should be a ritualistic practice. I recommend it at least 3 times a week, and that's the minimum, right? But at least 3 times a week, where you should be going within yourself, taking the time to breathe, sit down, and go within yourself. Go in your own mind, your own dark matter, your own consciousness, your subconscious mind, and mine, right? What they call data mining when they're talking about cryptocurrency, do your own data mining. And through that is going to your childhood, going back in your past, seeing what the things were, where these influences come to your childhood, and why you're doing the things that you're doing now. And the Christ consciousness we have on our right or on our brain, there is a neuron. There's a neuron that goes around, big neuron, and it is called the crown. You can look this up. It's a crown of, they call it the crown of thorns, which is the same thing in the Bible, ironically. But it's a crown of thorns, and that's what it looks like, a crown of thorns. Neurons a neuron that goes, a big neuron that goes around the brain. And once you're activating that pineal gland, that crown chakra, that is really where your Christ consciousness comes in. And depending on how long you do this work, you'll actually be able to feel that, and you'll be able to feel that halo or that crown that you have on your head, which all of you have, you just don't know it. All of us have it, but we just don't know it. And we're not tapped in, and we're not doing the work to get there. So part of engaging and getting to this point of Christ consciousness is always enlightenment. It's never, there's no such word as ex-lightenment. There's no such word as external light. Oh, there's external light, but no, when it comes to spiritual things, it's enlightenment. It's inner work. It's going within. It's going inside of yourself. And I think, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because it's a subject that a lot of people don't talk about in the occult, in the magical community, going into and reprogramming that inner child. And the only time people talk about inner child work is when they talk about going to psychologists. And maybe a psychologist is going to work for you in that moment. But I know a lot of people, you see a lot of celebrities that talk about going to psychologists, but their behavior hasn't changed at all because it's just words. When you go into meditation, you are not only using words where you're chanting a mantra, right? You could chant Om or whatever mantra you choose to look up and study for yourself, so you know what type of move you want to go to when you're going in. Again, you're the CEO of your own life. I'm just giving you tips, but you're the CEO of your own life. Get a mantra. You have your visual of what you want to manifest or what you want to create or what you want to see, or even if it's just to go into your childhood and look at the things that are influencing you now. Look at the trauma and look at the things that hurt you as a child and heal that portion of yourself for your future, so that you're not triggered by these things, so that you're not overwhelmed by these feelings and overwhelmed by these emotions. Again, I said this before, somebody could get shot, a black man could get shot by a cop tomorrow morning when you wake up. And that, if you are not in tune, if you have not tapped into your inner child, if you do not know the source of why you're upset, You'll be following along with the comments and the anger and the upset and being moody and being caught in this game that they play on us all day to keep us trapped in trauma and keep us trapped in negative ideas. And then what do we do to heal that negativity, to heal that feeling, to heal that pain, to heal that trauma? We go spend that bread. We go spend that money buying drugs, buying drinks, buying clothes, ordering things as a form of healing, because this is what capitalism is all about. It's about turning tragedy into dollars. It's about capitalizing on whatever event happens. So a lot of times we'll get swept up in that net. But if you've healed yourself, and if you've gone through your childhood, and if you've gone through your history and seen like, oh, these things happen. Oh, life happens. Oh, I watch Gladiator. I've seen slaves in other races. I've seen people being slaves that were not black. And I'm not saying that black slavery wasn't tragic. Please don't misquote me. But what I am saying is how deep, how much trauma, how much pain are we being sold for these ideas to take root in us, for these tragedies to really affect the way we move today. So we got to heal. We got to heal this inner child, and we have to get that inner child to a place of happiness, to a place of peace, to a place of reassurance, right? So today, take some time. Give your inner child a hug. Tell your inner child that everything's going to be all right. Tell the inner child that they are magical. Tell the inner child that they are king, that they are queen, that they are royalty. And tell the inner child, look at me now. And ask that inner child for guidance. Because again, time doesn't exist. So that means your past and your future. There's another timeline. There's another timeline where that inner child is still a child. If we're talking about multiple universes and different realities, right? Which even science is talking about multiple universes and different realities and things like that. That child exists on another reality, if your imagination goes that deep. So healing that inner child is healing one of your timelines, believe it or not. And again, it's not about blind forgiveness. It's not about turning the other cheek. It's about you and you not being weighed down with things that have affected you in the past. If you're here, please hit that like button. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I do a meditation class where I do inner child work. Again, this is something that inspired this video because I realize it's just something that I don't see anybody talking about in the occult community. But if you do need to learn how to meditate, I do teach a class. It's 45 minutes for $45. You can email me or hit me. Just check my page. You'll see all the ways to contact me and cash at me and things like that. Slowing down for the elemental magic class because I've been doing them one-on-one and I need to record them because it's just a lot of people coming. So I'm not going to advertise the class yet. I am going to start recording them this week. But definitely today or whenever you're doing this, please tap in. Please, because if we're talking about Black is King, the source of Black is King is the Lion King movie. And the Lion King is all about healing the inner child. It's all about Simba getting over the death of his father. And it's all about Simba coming into his own and realizing that he can't rely on or he can't hang on to that trauma and coming into his kingship by overcoming the obstacle of Scar and the hyenas, right? So there's always going to be a battle or a war between quote unquote good and evil. But the key is, how are you dealing with it? If you have your trauma that's weighing you down, how can you be as successful a warrior that you want to be? We just went through the Lion's Gate. Will you become the Lion King? Will you become the Lion Queen? But healing that inner Simba, right? Going through those motions, going through your past so that you can see your future, right? That's one of the keys to knowing your history so that you can see your future. That's it. Learning from the past so you can see the future. This is why, personally, I don't believe in the NFAC, right? Y'all may hate me for saying that, but I don't believe in the NFAC because I seen the Black Panther Party. I studied the Black Panther Party and I saw what happened to the Black Panthers. There's Black Panthers in jail right now, 50, 60 years for recruiting people the same disorganized way he is. I'm just speaking facts. I'm just speaking facts. So that's an organization that could be easily infiltrated if all I have to do, according to him, is, and again, I'm not knocking him. I'm just telling you how you got to use history as a way to gauge the future. Because if you didn't use your past, if you didn't use your history, and if you just were in the trauma of the Black Panthers being disbanded, or the trauma of what J. Edgar Hoover did to the Black Panthers, you won't see the lesson of that history replaying right now in the NFAC. And that organization is an organization that's bound to, if it's not already infiltrated, be infiltrated. And if it's and if it's not already ran by, if it's not, anyway, I'm not even gonna get into that because I don't even want to get into that conspiracy. But again, history is to be studied so that you can understand the future. Your history, your personal history, is to be studied. So don't be in here talking about, I want this love spell, I want this money spell, I want this spell for this, I want this spell for that, and you're not doing this inner work. Because what you will get is either A, nothing, or B, something very temporary. Something very temporary. Because if you ain't right, who cares what you have externally? That shit don't matter when you got to go back and look in that mirror late at night and lay in that bed by yourself and wake up in the morning in that bed by yourself. And some people, even with that, they just continue to add distractions so that they never have to go into their inner selves. Okay? Yes, all organizations can be infiltrated, but it's going to be very hard for me to infiltrate the FBI. It's going to be very hard for me or you to infiltrate the CIA because they have certain protocols in place. They have certain things, background checks. They have ways of detecting and weeding out certain people. I don't see that in the NFAC. Again, I'm not knocking them. I could be wrong. Bring me some information on where I'm wrong, where you just don't have to submit an email and be a gun owner to join. That's what I saw. All you have to do is submit an email and be a registered gun owner, and you could join the NFAC. So if anybody here could tell me that there's different criteria that I don't know, let me know. I don't mind being wrong, but I know I'm right because I studied the Panthers and I seen what happened to them. That's the same shit that could happen to this organization. All right, I hope it doesn't. I hope I'm wrong. But again, studying history is going to enable you to see the future. Studying your own past is going to enable you to see the future, enable you to be in tune with the future and see the future with a light heart when you're looking at things from a strategic mind and not looking at things always from an emotional mind, always being stuck in trauma, always being stuck in the pain from your past and looking towards your future. Your ancestors went through the pain of the past already. They already was hurt from slavery. They already was hurt from Jim Crow. They already was hurt from being segregated. They already went through that pain so that not so you could be here in 2020 and regurgitate the pain all over again. They want you to move forward. They want you to move forward. They want you to grow. They want you to climb. They want you to build business. And if you are going to be in this pain, they create their own institutions to heal, to help, and to uplift. So with that said, again, the meditation class, if you're interested, email me, hit me on Instagram, Facebook. Again, check my information. It's in all my other old videos. And with that said, anybody have any questions? I'll take a couple of questions. If anybody has any questions about this inner child work and this Christ consciousness, because it is the key. Without this inner child work, I don't see how you could really tap into this Christ consciousness fully. If you're, as Mr. Real Estate said, the Bible says it, and this is true, and I believe this, you do have to be childlike to enter the kingdom of heaven. You do have to have that innocence, that curiosity, and that wonder to even decode, to even deep dive, right? To decode, to analyze, to scrutinize. You have to be childlike. You have to have that childlike curiosity to wonder what is. when you were questioning the church or the mosque, you had that childlike curiosity. This doesn't make sense. Let me look into this. Let me read this book. Let me look at this website. Let me ask somebody that I know that knows more about this. That childlike curiosity, that childlike wonder, right? When you're not worried, when tragedy hits and you are not in a place of worry, you are in a place of knowing that everything's going to turn out best for you. Everything's going to turn out great for you. That is childlike. That's childlike wonder. That's childlike awe. That's that everything's great. You fall and scrape yourself on the ground. You come back up and you start running again, right? You don't care. You having fun. So that's that childlike resilience that people don't even see, right? So tapping into this childlike energy is very, very important. But I don't see any questions. If this content makes sense, if you liked it, if you loved it, you can hit me on the Cash App, $Rob Blackstorm 7, $Rob Blackstorm 7, Rob Blackstorm 7. I hope your Lionsgate was great yesterday. I hope you did the magic that you want to fulfill and get your needs met, and your wants met, and your desires met, and your character elevated. And I wish everybody the best. Have a wonderful Sunday, wonderful week. Today is Sunday, so this is the day of the sun. We're in Leo season, right? So this is definitely a day you want to go within some way, shape, or form. Go into your books, go into your readings, right? Get yourself prepared for the week. This month, I'm going to say it again, I feel like the power is going to shut off. I'm going to probably say it's every video till the end of the month. I really feel that the power is going to, software is going to hit. So be prepared. Have some food, right? Have some stuff and be able to power your things up. Get a solar charger, right? I've been talking about these things for months, right? So look at my old videos. Get yourself prepared for this Carrington event that I think will happen. Okay, and look up the Carrington event if you don't know what I'm talking about. Look up the Carrington event. Okay, again, $Rob Blackstorm 7. Peace, power, prosperity to all of y'all. One love.